Hey guys, what's up? My name is Eric and I'm the Techy agent, and today we're going golfing with the Microsoft Band 2 and the Garmin Vivoactive HR. Okay, so I brought some help along today to test these watches out because I am not a golfer. So I got my good friend Dave Bender and my dad Scott Russell to help me out here today because, again, I'm not a golfer and I wanted some guys who actually golf on a semi-regular basis to be able to give me some feedback on how these are either helpful or not helpful as they golf. So we're going to test these out at the highly underrated golf course, Weatherwax in Middletown, Ohio, and it should be noted that both the Microsoft Band and the Garmin Vivoactive HR are not primarily golf watches. You can go out and spend $200, $300, $400 on a watch that's sole function is to provide some sort of golf feature. These watches are basically fitness trackers that include, as part of their feature set, a golf setting or a golf feature. So we're going to look at them and see if the golf features that they provide are worth it, if they are good, if they're worth even using, and if they provide benefit to those of us who golf. So before we see how these worked on the actual golf course, let's talk about some of the features and functionality of these devices. Now, both of these will give you access to a database of approximately 40,000 golf courses, so you shouldn't have any trouble golfing with either of these. However, the Microsoft Band will only allow you to do one course on the band at a time, whereas the Garmin Vivoactive HR, in theory, gives you an infinite amount of courses until the memory on the band is filled. So that's an advantage that the Garmin Vivoactive has. However, the Microsoft Band has automatic scorekeeping, whereas the Garmin Vivoactive HR has manual scorekeeping. So the Microsoft Band does this automatic scorekeeping with shot detection technology built in. It actually works pretty good. We'll show you how that worked here in a moment. Both bands will automatically detect which hole you're on, and it'll tell you the par for that particular hole. You will get the distance that you are from the front of the green, the middle of the green, and the back of the green. So you're seeing on screen now what the respective screens of the Microsoft Band and the Garmin Vivoactive HR look like. Those are the main screens that you're going to be looking at while you're golfing. The Garmin has a constantly on GPS that's constantly adjusting the yardages that it's giving you based on where you are at on the course. The Microsoft Band 2, on the other hand, requires you to manually push a button to ping the GPS to get a precise location from where you're standing at that very moment. And then if you move around, it will keep the previous values on screen. And so if you want to get new values, you'll have to re-ping using the Microsoft Band 2. Now, in terms of accuracy, both devices seemed to spit back numbers that were always within about 3 to 5 yards of each other, so within a decent margin of error. However, we did kind of walk away feeling that the Microsoft Band 2 was just ever so slightly more accurate. Again, not enough to be a deal breaker, but it was usually probably the one that was slightly more accurate over the Garmin Vivoactive HR. Now, in terms of being able to read the screens, the Microsoft Band 2 is really hard to see in direct sunlight. I'm going to show here. Can you bring it out over this way a little bit?
I'm sorry. Yeah.
You're fine. Man, I can't see this for anything. Contrast that with the Garmin Vivoactive HR and you have no problem viewing it in very, very bright sunlight, even direct sunlight. The Garmin also provides you with a really cool view of the green, and it also allows you to see layup distances. Now, both of those features are not found on the Microsoft Band. Now, the Garmin Vivoactive HR does allow you to do scorekeeping on the band. However, it's manual. You'll have to enter in all of your strokes and everything manually. And that was a little bit more tedious than just simply filling out the scorecard with a paper and pencil the old traditional way. Both golfers felt that it was a little bit too tedious to use the manual setting. However, the Microsoft Band 2 has automatic shot detection, which then translates to automatically keeping score. And it was remarkably accurate. It was actually able to determine the difference between a practice swing and an actual swing and stroke. It even counted the strokes when you are putting, so it's very, very accurate, and the few times that it did have a mistake and count an extra stroke or not count a stroke, it's very, very easy and intuitive to just simply swipe on the screen to either add a stroke or take one away. When we were all done golfing, I wanted to interview both of these golfers and ask their opinions on which device they preferred and why, and I got an interesting response.
For golf, I would go with the Microsoft band.
I preferred the Garmin.
It had more. I found myself looking at it more.
Okay.
It was more. I thought of it more because it added more, I think, to my experience with golfing. It had the shot counter was pretty handy, and actually did
the automatic tracking.
Yeah, the automatic shot tracking did a pretty impressive job. Yeah, correcting it took about a half a second to just swipe it left to right, and I rarely had to correct it.
Okay.
And when I did, it was never more than one stroke off.
Yeah.
But it somehow determined when I was taking a practice swing and when I was taking a real swing. It knew the difference.
Okay.
Which I thought that was pretty interesting. The downside of it was having to ping the GPS every time I wanted a distance.
Yeah.
Whereas on the Garmin, it was right there. When I looked down, it was already on my wrist.
Yeah.
So I didn't like having to ping it, but it wasn't a huge inconvenience. I thought the added value of the shot tracker and just the interface in general, being able to swipe back and forth and interact with it pretty easily.
I like simple.
Okay.
And to me, the Garmin didn't have a lot of having to hit a lot of buttons to know what your ranges are, and I like things to be automatic and just keep playing.
Right.
I only had to look down my wrist. I didn't have to hit a lot of buttons. I didn't like the orientation. You almost had to turn your wrist this way, whereas the Garmin, I could just look right at it, and it was a brighter resolution. Mm-hmm. I constantly was having to cup my wrist to be able to read the screen on the Microsoft.
Okay. The Microsoft band seemed to work well for automatic tracking, but the Garmin, since it was manual tracking, pretty much you guys both abandoned that.
It was useless.
Because it was...
Yeah, and
if you're going to manually track, you might as well write it on pencil and paper.
And to be honest, even if it kept accurate count of my strokes, I would prefer to mark it down on a card anyways. I want to see it from me and compare all the holes at once rather than looking hole by hole what my score is.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I liked having it all automatically added up for me, but I would not take the extra effort to manually input anything. That doesn't add up.
Unless you just have to correct it with a quick, like with the Microsoft band correcting it was fairly easy.
Right.
So there you have it, two different perspectives from two different golfers. So take from it what you will. Hey guys, thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. My name is Eric and I'm the Techie Agent. We'll catch you next time. I'll just do like interview style, and you can. It can be candid because I'll cut it to make it work for us.
You want me to sit like this?
Is that, yeah.